we'll cover a few different things. Like I said, I want to get you up and get a little more hands-on stuff, so what we do, and we'll talk about. So I'll start with, well, I guess I should first make sure my equipment works. Does this thing... No. Says it's on. Okay, while that's thinking, we can see if we can get this working. We'll talk a little bit, again, I tried to mix it up a little bit this year to give you guys a bit of variety of what we cover. So I took out a lot of the, some of the traffic situations and how you handle and maneuver your bike and that kind of stuff. So if you have specific questions, I guess that's the other point, is if you have specific questions about things, we can talk about it. If you want to talk about Lincoln-specific crosswalks and hitting a crosswalk, and if you've heard of that lately, that's a whole different story, a can of worms. But we'll cover just some basic stuff that you'll need to know to get out and start riding. And we won't talk a lot on mechanics, other than we'll talk a little bit about bike fit. And I'll show you a short video about bike fit, so it's not just me talking the whole time, so you can kind of see that as well. So I think what I'm going to do, open this mouse, will work for me instead. Okay, so the agenda today is I'll give you a quick intro. I think most of you know who I am. If not, we'll talk about that. Getting ready for spring, helmet fit, ABC quick check. These are two kind of standard. You always want to talk about that. We'll cover those quickly. Reflective vest demo. So hopefully I've talked long enough that you guys have gotten your food down, and we'll get you up. This will be a fun one. We've done it before, and it's neat. So I'll get you up. We'll get you all lined up across the room. This is a great room because there's no light once we turn the lights off. And I've got a light up here that is a very bright light that will pass down to each other, and we'll do the reflective vest demo. And you'll see the point of the demonstration is to realize how visible or not visible you are if you're out there running, biking, whatever you're doing, wearing reflective gear. It may not be what you think it is. So just so you understand how reflective gear works. Then we'll do a quiz and see how many items you can guess are in this bike jersey that's hanging up here. And then you'll hear more about that in a second. We'll talk about how to fix a flat. So, and if you guys want, we can have a little race. We have done this before. I've got what you need for that. I won't tell you what those are yet. I've got some flat tires up here, so we can practice that if you want. And then we'll talk about fit your bike, and that's where I can get on this bike. I've brought a couple different bikes to kind of talk about if you have questions on some specific bikes. We'll talk about that. I brought this one, threw it in the trainer so you can kind of see what fit looks like, and then we will show a short video on that. So that's kind of the game plan. So me, Brent Davis, I think most of you know, certified instructor with the League of American Bicyclists. Board president of the Nebraska Bicycling Alliance, which is the jersey you see here. I'll shamelessly plug our governor's ride that we've now got scheduled for National Bike to School Day on May 6th. So excited. We're going to be meeting at the Capitol and riding down to Prescott Elementary. And we have a bike shop that's giving every kid that rides to school that day that does not have a helmet, they get a new helmet that day as well. We're giving the governor one of these jerseys, not this one, I don't think. But we're doing a proclamation for National Bike to Work Month, week, and day, and then Ride to School Day as well. So kind of a neat event that we got coordinated with the governor. So I've done a lot of things, commuting, touring, racing, all kinds of stuff. So just, it's been fun. It's been a lot of learning, and again, it's just a healthy way to stay active. It's a great form of transportation as well. So get out there and ride. So I've been doing it for a long time. So, introductions. As you're still maybe having lunch, kind of want to talk about what kind of bike you own. Anybody want to interact and tell me what kind of bike you have? Do you know what kind of bike you have? I kind of got a list here of not every bike, but a lot of bikes. What? Okay, well, Janae's bike is kind of on there. And Janae's bike, if you haven't seen it before, you will see it at the very end. So if you have to leave early, maybe that'll keep you from leaving early. You'll get to see her bike at the very, very end. It's on the last slide. I have used it before, so I left it in there. Anybody? She's got kind of a cruiser bike. So, anybody else?
I have a mountain bike.
Mountain bike. This is, mountain bike right here. Mountain bike.
No, I think mine must be a road bike, I think, more of a road bike.
Yours, Larry, I would call yours more of the fitness bike.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Brent, I have a Specialized rock hopper circa 1990.
Okay.
Same deal, but
Good.
doesn't look like that one.
Okay.
But I still love it.
This one, I'll tell you, is 1998.
Okay.
So this was really, I'll say, my first bike. My first bike I acquired because of my wife. She owned it. It was a men's bike. It was too big for her, and so I kind of overtook that bike. And it's a '91 Specialized rock hopper. It's been repainted. It's Plymouth Prowler yellow. And anyway, so it usually is mounted to this trainer at home. Is where that's usually at. But yeah, this just goes to show you. This is my main mountain bike. And it's 1998. So I've gone through and rebuilt some components and things and changed out wheels and tires and seats. But there's a lot of original equipment on this bike yet today. So again, if you take care of it and you maintenance it right, which we'll kind of talk about getting ready for spring, your bike will live a long, happy life. So yes. And then, anybody else?
I have a fitness bike.
Fitness bike? Yeah?
Mine's a lot like that.
Not like that?
Yeah.
You guys know are working on your bikes, right?
Yeah.
We'll get you to a bike shop soon. Anybody else? No? Okay, that's all right. That's all right. The point is, there's a lot of styles out there. And this one, so this is a mountain bike. You can obviously tell by the really big knobby tires. This one, and I left this one kind of set up this way for you. This is a cross bike. It looks a lot like a road bike because it's got the drop bars like a road bike would have. But if you notice, it's got the knobby tires. So this is kind of one of the newest, latest bikes, besides the fat bike I've got listed there. The fat bikes have a tire that's a 5-inch tire. That's a 2.1-inch tire, to give you an idea. The fat bikes are awesome. So that's next on my list, one I don't own. So yeah. This one is great for everything. This was really made, it's a cross bike. It's for gravel roads, it's for off-roading, maybe a little bit different than that kind of off-roading, but it's a great all-around bike. So if someone asked me if you were stuck with only having one bike for the rest of your life, this is a kind of do-all, because I can switch. I've got multiple wheel sets for this bike, so besides changing the tires on the rims, I have a whole complete set that I can just switch out in a hurry. And this can go on pavement anywhere you want to go. It does single track, which is Wilderness Park. If you've never been in Wilderness Park, you don't have to take a mountain bike in there. You can take one of these, and it does fabulous. Gravel roads is huge nowadays, so riding gravel roads is a lot of fun, believe it or not. The state games had a big 112-mile race last year on that, so it's a fun ride. So anyway, so I kind of, like I said, wanted to show you what the little bit different bikes are. We're not going to cover that slide. We're going to skip that one. So, getting ready for spring, and there's a handout there for you guys that you guys all have. We'll kind of go through that. So, get your bike out for the first time, getting it kind of ready. What you want to check for is we'll go through the frame. really what's gonna happen is you're gonna take your bike, you're gonna, if it's dirty, and I didn't clean these bikes up, by the way, this is kind of what they look like. They're not, haven't been washed for a little while. But go through the bike, check the frame out, make sure there's no cracks, nothing wrong. So if you give it a little quick bath, that's gonna be your best way to inspect it, make sure that the frame's good. I will tell you, my neighbors think I'm nuts. And one of them, she works here at the bank, so she knows it more than one way. But a lot of times I'm cleaning my bike on Friday nights because I'm getting ready for a long Saturday ride. And part of that process is kind of doing some of this. So I'm checking things over, making sure everything's aired up right, clean the bike, clean the chain, all that good stuff. I found one time my stem, so this is your stem on your bike, holds your handlebars to the fork, and it cracked. And I didn't know it, but I found out because I was cleaning the bike. So make sure you inspect things as you clean it, make sure that nothing's loose, and you'll be happy. Because had that broke on a ride, that would have been bad. Inspect the wheels, rims for wear and damage, make sure they're true. You can easily do that yourself if you want. And you may not be able to do much other than knowing that there's some issues with it. This is a quick, just careful way to flip it over. If you're looking at it, this is kind of like a truing stand. You can look at your brake pads. I'll just turn this. So what I'm doing is, I'm looking where my brake pads are on either side of the rim. And if you just spin that, you can make sure there's not a wave in that rim. That'll tell you if that wheel's out of true and needs adjusted. And I'm looking at it. I know you can't see it, but it's straight. The other thing is, talk about, just check the spokes. A lot of times if they're tight enough, they make a good sound. I mean, they'll have a nice ring to them, and they should all kind of sound the same way, but you can just kind of take your hand and squeeze them. Now I know on this one right here, I've got a spoke I need to fix. So I was kind of thinking it might break this morning on my ride, but it didn't. But this one's got a little bit of a spoke issue, and I've worked on that one before. So check it out, make sure nothing's loose, because you don't want those breaking when you're out on a ride. Okay, just make sure those are true.
Are they easy to tighten up if they are?
Yeah, there is. It's not hard. There's just a wrench, a small wrench that you have to use to tighten those up. So what happens though is if you pull it one way, you're basically pulling the wheel. So you got to kind of know what you're doing. It's a little tricky, and I even sometimes struggle with it. You tighten one up too much, you pull the wheel too far one way versus the other. So you got to kind of be careful with that. Inspect the tires. It's a little harder on these, but just go through and check, make sure there's no major cuts or damage. If your bike is old, I mean, eventually the tires do, the compound, the rubber does break down over time. I don't want to say dry rot, but that could, depends on how old the bike is. Now I will tell you this, I told you how old this bike was, right? 1998. This is the original wheels and tires that came on this mountain bike. And I still have them today. Obviously not nearly as aggressive tread. You see the tread design is different, front versus rear. This has no cassette on the back. I've taken that off. But yeah, I mean, these will last a long time. Now, is this still a good tire? And I'm not running them because this is a lot better tire, newer tire, better traction. Less likely to get cut and damaged like we're talking about. Test your brakes. When we go through the next ABC quick check, we'll talk about brakes, but we'll make sure that they're working. I think even the Lincoln City ordinance is your brakes should be worked well enough that your tire skids if you drag it like this. That's how it's spelled out in the ordinance, actually. So make sure it locks that wheel up to where it goes into a skid. And the same with that front one. Okay, so your brake's working good. Questions so far? The headset is should be good, but your headset's probably not changed a lot. Your headset is right here. This holds the stem to the fork. So you've got a top bolt usually, and then 2 bolts here. So things should be tight and loose. You can check that by doing this, and making sure it's not moving, and you don't twist it really hard. Just give it a little snug and make sure that's not moving and it's good. If so, if it is loose, just a simple Allen wrench. I think I brought one somewhere. Simple Allen wrench is what you're going to need on a bike to tighten this up, tighten those up. So just that's all you really need. Then the seat post, hopefully that's set. That's one thing about some bikes, some of your bikes. This one has a quick release seat post. I'll turn it around for you so you can see the filthy side of the bike. Quick release seat post is there. So make sure that is good and snug and tight, because you don't want your seat dropping on you. Some bikes like this one, they don't have a quick release. So to adjust it, you have to have your Allen wrench with you. So we'll talk about that later, but that's why it's always good to have one of these, not this big, full, heavy one with you, but just a single, small Allen wrench that fits most of your bike components, which is going to be like a 4 and a 5 Allen wrench. But this one does not have a quick release like this one does. So make sure that's good and tight and snug. Seat is straight. Hopefully it's still the right size and fit. If you're talking about your kids, every year you have to adjust your kids' bikes in the spring because they're growing, and you'll notice that hopefully right away when they start riding their bike, ooh, that seat's too low. You need to raise that up a little bit. So make sure you don't forget about your kids' bikes as well. Test the handlebar stem, make sure the pedals are tight and secure. So going through, making sure all the stuff is tight, make sure nothing's loose. Your pedals should be on there good and tight, so make sure that's good. Inspect the cables. The cables is probably the one thing that this bike has probably gone through a couple set of cables, and it's not always just the actual cable itself. Spin this around. This one's got the cable up here. You may want to put new cables on. You may need to change the housing as well, because a lot of times that's where the corrosion and rust is happening, is inside that housing. But this cable's not that old. I changed it not that long ago, so these are pretty. I know these are good. But if it's been 3-4 years, or if you have original cables on your bike, probably want to change those, because again, especially your brakes, if that cable breaks and you don't have a brake to use, you're going to be sorry. So make sure those brake cables are working good. If anything's frayed, damaged, just replace. These are actually really cheap. I mean, a couple bucks for a cable. So, and if you can reuse the housings, great. So that's even better. Questions on any of that?
What is good chain maintenance?
Good chain maintenance, yes. I'd say at least make sure you lube it once a week. And I brought, I knew you would ask, this is what I like to use. You'll find this at Shields, you'll find it at every bike shop in town has this. I have a big jug of this that I bought. So I just refill this bottle, because this nice little bottle works well just for lubing the chain. So I have a big jug and it works well. But this is why I like ProLink. The trick is you want to lube that chain. Well, clean it off first, and that's where the first step is, to make sure you get that chain clean. And there's a couple ways to do it. I've done everything from just lubing it a little bit first and taking a rag or old socks. I like to take what you can see here, old socks and stuff to use to clean components with. So clean it down first. And sometimes the lube is maybe the best way to break loose all the grit and grime. So get it cleaned off. You can also do a little trick where I'll take 2 old toothbrushes, put their heads together, and then duct tape them together so that both bristles are like that. And that's a great way to clean your chain. You can buy a kind of expensive little contraption that's got some gears and wheels, and it runs through. It's got you put some detergent cleaner in there and clean your chain that way, and that works good. I got one of those, but sometimes I just like taking those 2 old toothbrushes I've got taped together and just scrubbing that chain good, and cleaning it up nice.
What about an air compressor? Would that I mean, it gets.
It may blow off some stuff, but you really need to get inside the links
Clean it
and
more.
to really get it clean. Yep. And so it's not so much all the outside, it's kind of what's on the inside of that chain that's happening that's going to wear out. So once you've got it clean, then lube it. And take a little bit of this. You don't need a ton. And what you're going to do is lube your chain and then just wait a couple minutes and then take that rag and wipe it down. Because really you don't need a lot of excess lube on the outside. It's the links on the inside where the process is happening. Mechanics are taking place. So don't think you need a lot of lubes visible, because that's just going to collect more dust and grime and stuff. So, good question. That's what I knew someone was going to ask, so I brought this today. What else we got? Inspect your brake pads. If you know how to take your wheels off, you can easily do that. And brake pads are kind of like automotive brake pads. There's some wear indicators. There's some big, deep grooves in there, and you'll see if the pads are slowly disappearing, there's not much of a groove in there. You can kind of look at it visibly from the outside and kind of see without taking things apart. It's better if you can open it up and take a look at it, take the wheel out. So, and if you don't know how to do that, that's really easy. So this has, just undo the brake, undo the quick release, pull it out, set that off to the side, and then now I can inspect. You can kind of see the grooves in here. There's 3 notches in there. This one, you know, it's kind of getting kind of close. I could probably use some new brake pads on that one. You can clean those up too, kind of get some of the grit and grime. Make sure sometimes you may get a metal flake or a piece of rock or grit and grime in there. Make sure you get those cleaned out. And then just put that back in there the right way. Piece of cake, don't forget to do your brake and your quick release. So I've kind of preempted some of the stuff I've talked about. Make sure that's good and snug. And you're ready to go. The derailleurs talks about, I've got a bike stand, so I can take my bike, I take the front wheel off, and I put it up in a bike stand. Not a trainer, different, but I can check and work on my derailleurs if I have to. So the rear derailleur and the front derailleur we're talking about is this right here, this guy, and the front one. Honestly, you had to have it in a stand pretty much to have that wheel turning and to be shifting it to check to see if it's going to work. Really, if you're going to ride it, if it's jumping around, skipping around, then it needs adjusted. And I'm guessing most people will be better off just to take it to get it tuned up. So easy enough. And then tire pressure. Tire pressure is always a fun one. Definitely look at the side of the tire. They'll tell you the recommended tire pressure, and it may range from, you know, by 30 to 40 pounds of pressure. Just depends on the type of tire it is. They may tell you can inflate it from 40 to 80, just depends. Those tires are probably running right now at about 60 pounds of pressure. My road bike, I keep at 100 pounds of pressure. These right now, I've got this one set up, and you have to check these like weekly, if not every few days if you ride a lot. This one right now, I've got the back set at like 60, which is actually kind of high for a mountain bike. If I get off to where I need to lower it, I can easily let air out. This front one's about, I think, 45 or 50 right now. So it's all personal preference and depends on the terrain. So let's say you're out on a ride and it starts raining. Like if I was on this, which I was on this morning, and it was a chance of a little bit of rain this morning, if I had these up to 60, I might take out 10 pounds of pressure out of them, just by feel, just to give me better traction and less chances of slipping. Same thing with these tires. If you're off, let's say if I decide I'm going to ride from my house to Wilderness Park, I'm on pavement, trails most of the way to get there, jump into the trail, I'm on dirt, single track, I may want to take air out. And you'll have a much better, more comfortable ride and better traction. So it just depends on the terrain and what you're doing. So fat bikes, we were talking about fat bikes earlier that have the huge 5-inch tires. They run 6 to 10 pounds of pressure. Low, very low. So yeah, it's crazy. Any other questions about getting your bike ready for spring? best step, just make sure, clean it all up. And if you're in doubt, take it to a bike shop and let those guys take a quick look at it. A tune-up's usually pretty inexpensive, so. Helmet fit. Now I know helmets are kind of a, either love them or you hate them or you just won't use them, and that's you know, it's not required by law in Nebraska, so it's a personal preference. I always wear a helmet, so there's nothing says you have to, but I've been in enough accidents and crashes and seen other people crash that the helmet does save your life. There was a gal who was just hit last Friday at 7:30 in the morning on the way to work, and totally hit in a crosswalk, hit the windshield, took out the windshield of the car. She spent the night in the hospital. She had a brain bleed. Her helmet saved her life. I mean, and she had a helmet on. The helmet I saw was destroyed, but you know, again, it's important to wear those. I've had crashes where the helmet was destroyed. So your helmet's important, but I know it may mess up your hair. I really don't have a problem with that. So I'm good. And helmets, you know, try them on. There's a lot of different sizes and colors and styles and visors and no visors, and it's up to you and how it fits and looks. Not everyone fits and looks the same, so, you know, go try them out. I'm kind of picky about how they look and fit too. I've got a couple different helmets that I wear. This is an older one, and I'll tell you the first thing too about your helmet is that they do have an expiration date, so to speak. They typically last 4 to 5 years is what they say. There's a born on date on the inside. And I can tell you this one I know is January 2008. So this one it's kind of an old backup spare. It's blue and it matches my tandem bike, so I use it. So, but it's still a good, just to show you how the helmet fits. Again, like I said, if you're wearing your helmet, it should fit kind of snug. So when we go and teach kids this, we do the same drill. We show them we put these on, and it shouldn't move around and wiggle. It's pretty snug. There's usually an adjuster here in the back of some sort on the adult helmets. The kids' helmets are usually just some elastic that holds it in there. And then you want to make sure it's level. You want to make sure that when it's snapped, it's not too tight. A little bit of like a finger room underneath. You're supposed to be able to open your mouth, like I'm doing now, I'm talking, so it's not too snug. It should be level, and then you should be able to get about 2 fingers above. You can still see under your eyes, so that's the right fit. So, not tilted back or anything else like that. So, again, I know it's if this is the deterrent from you riding your bike, you know, I get it. But if you're not, you know, it shouldn't hopefully be a big issue. But if you can wear a helmet, that's great because it will save you if you crash. So, questions?
We knew a family, this has been back in the mid-90s, that he actually didn't have a helmet on and he crashed. It was kind of a freak accident. He was up by a wall and I don't know, he fell out, but his daughter was with him and he actually died.
Yeah.
So now it's right in Lincoln, so it can happen.
Yeah, it happened anywhere.
This was right on the trail by Highway 2, so it's...
Right. It can happen anywhere, and that's why, yeah, it's definitely important to wear your helmet. Okay. ABC Quick Check. I've kind of actually covered some of this. So before every ride, make sure you take your bike. So you've already done the pre-spring thing, and I do this naturally, and it happens within seconds, if not less, as you roll out the door every morning for me, as I head out for a ride. So usually what I like to do is, as I'm getting on the bike, just to make sure I don't have a flat, I'm checking these quick. A is for air. Check your brakes, everything's good. On your brakes, just make sure that your brake levers aren't pinching a finger. If it is, you've got some barrel adjusters here that are pretty easy to use to adjust that. Different on this bike. Road bikes have a different shifter. This is my brake shifter here. Again, should not be pinching my fingers. Also, this is where I shift, so all that's integrated together. And this is a, different style of shifting, but make sure those brakes are working as well. So you've checked the air, the brakes, chain, crank, cassette is what the C stands for. Make sure nothing's loose. This one definitely could use a cleaning. Besides that, I'm good to go. And then the quick is for the quick releases. So again, you got one on the seat, which hopefully should always be good. But make sure your back one and your front one, if you've got those, are tight. So again, I took this off earlier, so that's the quick release. So make sure that's good. And the other last thing to do is the check. And all that happens really just as you're rolling out the door. And the check you can do, we call this the drop test. Just pick it up and drop it. You kind of know what it sounds like. And I know this one is, that's how this bike sounds. Now, I'll show you if that front skewer is loose, the quick release is loose. That doesn't sound right. Something's loose. And I've had that happen, honestly, I have. Because I've switched out enough wheels and stuff all the time that if I forget to tighten one up or it gets bumped loose, that's going to be loose. So just about an inch off the ground, drop it. You're going to hear your chain bounce a little bit, but you'll know your bike. You'll know the sound of it. So good to go. So that's the ABC quick check. All right. This is the best fun part, reflective vest demo. All right. So I need everybody to line up straight row on the back wall. Hey, Sarah, I'll hold this time,
Okay.
and you can start with the light. Catch the lights. I don't know if there's a switch for those.
Oh, the other one, yeah, it's right out there. Right by the door. Yeah.
All right.
You want those off?
If you want these off, oh, they're always on.
Oh, those always on? That's fine. This will still work. So I'll kind of move for you. I'm going to stay static in the same spot, and you guys pass the light down each other slowly, and you'll see the person on the end, how reflective it is. As the light moves, you'll see how it changes. So go ahead and slowly pass the light down.
Sorry, I'm behind the pole.
Okay. What'd you notice?
Sometimes it was more reflective than other times. It was like you're looking at it now versus sometimes you can see the reflectors come out more. I thought.
Exactly. I'm gonna hit the lights there, Sarah. Thank you. So yeah, when the angle of the light, reflective only works at about 30 degrees. It's the green button on the back side.
Oh, okay.
You push it one more time, and then one more time. Okay. So I can't see you guys right now because I'm blinded by the light. I should have looked away. No, it's so yeah, it's only about a 30-degree angle or less. So as you notice the light going down the line, when you were looking at it first, it's just kind of a gray, drab color. And you have it, you see it, it's bright. So think about that when you're out there riding, running, whatever you're doing, that those car headlights are typically pointed down. They're not even looking up at your upper body really a lot. And that's not moving. And if they're at all at any kind of an angle from you, they're not going to see anything reflective that's on you. So keep that in mind as you dress appropriately. So what I like to do is when I go out, I like to put on reflective around my ankles, and I even have another set that's a little bit bigger that I put around my calves because I'm out when it's pitch dark all the time, and so in the mornings, and my legs are moving, and that's a very distinct, pattern, and so drivers of vehicles are going to notice that when the lights hit that, and it's lower instead of being up on the upper body. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to wear a vest or anything reflective up high, but just keep in mind that having something as simple as these ankle bracelets that have reflective around it are as good as anything to be seen and be visible. So, good. Thank you. Sit back down. Thank you. If you're curious, this is a 1200 lumen light, so it is super bright. I think it strips the paint off the road. I don't know. But, I get a lot of, yeah, and I run, I hate to say it, but I do run 2 of these. So usually I have one of these strapped to the handlebars, and I have one strapped on my helmet. So as I look around, so I can see a lot. I think this is brighter than a lot of the cars and motorcycles out there, because this is a lot of light. So I actually feel bad. I have to be careful when I see runners or other bikers. I try to look away. I point the light down. I do really, because it's so bright. Even out on the road, the cars, it's bright for them too. So pays to have some good lights, good equipment, and those are not crazy expensive. So yeah. All right. I'm just curious. Take some guesses. Here's our Nebraska Bicycle Alliance jersey. And you have a couple options when you go out for a ride. You can put stuff in a bag. As you see on my bikes, I'm kind of a minimalist. I don't like to put a lot of things. I do put a tail light on the bikes. And this one, I have a fender on it right now. And the fenders are nice. But you can put stuff, you can put frame bags on your bike. They have frame bags that go here, or stuff in here, or a seat bag on the back, so if you want to haul stuff. So you want to take a few things with you on the ride. Just going to show you. This is kind of fun. We'll talk about that. So, but having a bike jersey is kind of nice. Any guesses on how many things I've got in my 3 back pockets? Let's go around. Hey, someone's got to guess. Come on, throw a number out. 15. No.
6.
No.
36.
No, I'd be falling over.
9.
Oh, you're close, Larry.
10.
You're close. You're close. So close. 11. You got it. Okay. Now, because you guessed 11, I want you to come up here and take things out and tell us what they are.
Why did you just?
Let's take those out. So she gets to identify. This is the guessing game. She gets to identify what these items are.
I don't like break. Something to eat.
Yep. Food.
Phone.
Always good to have a phone.
Shot block. Energy bar.
Gel chew box. Yep.
Energy drink.
It's a gel.
Gel.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
So a little more food. You may have to take some food with you. Huh? Any help from the crowd?
Something for to fill the tires.
Yes. It's a pump. So this is a good one to have. This pump can take a CO2 cartridge on the end, and then it also works as a pump. So in the event that you run out of CO2 cartridge, you've had more than one flat, you can easily just pump it manually to get home. So yeah, nice to have. Any guesses?
Is that a repair? Part of a repair kit or something? Tire changer.
Well, it's tire levers.
Tire.
Yep. And there's a lot of different styles. There's also this. Can look like this. There are tire levers you can use. There's usually 2 or 3 in the set to help you get the tire off the rim. So if you get it flat, you gotta get that tire off.
And an inner tube in the middle.
Yep. And so what I like to do is I like to take the tube and $5, $6, $7, and I've got 2 Allen wrenches in here as well, and they are duct taped together like that, so you can still use them to turn them to tighten up your seat post or whatever you got. Then also you've got a kind of a nice spool of black electrical tape, because believe me, You never know when you're going to need electrical tape. Good example is, and this happens to me a lot, if I break a spoke, and sometimes you can't always get the spoke out of the wheel because of where it breaks. So you're stuck with that spoke and you don't want it flapping around, so I can take a little duct tape or electrical tape off of this and fix that. So whatever you might need. And then what I like to do is, and I brought these to show you, I set one up for every bike. So I've got the mountain bike tire, and it doesn't have the other stuff on it, but ready to go. I've got my cross bike tire, so this guy takes a little bit bigger tire than my road bike, so the same way, Allen wrenches and some money. So just whichever bike I jump on, I can grab that and I'm out the door. So, what else you got?
Is that what you fill your tire with?
Yes. So, I do run with 2 pumps just in case, because the experience has told me. So this pump is the quick CO2 pump. Like I said, this one also takes CO2. It goes in on the end and is a threaded style, threads in. This one here takes both threaded or non-threaded CO2 cartridges. And usually these are good for at least 1.5 fills. So if you get, that's why if you get more than 1 flat, this is empty, you need another way to pump up a tire. So this one slides in there and you screw it together and it punctures the CO2 cartridge for you. It stores nicely upside down, so you can use carry. So it's pretty compact. So if you're looking for something small and easy, this is pretty nice. A lock, just in case. And I was going to show you, this is a very small, simple lock. But if you're going to go someplace and you're not sure where you're going to end up being, you might want to have a simple lock with you like this, so small, light, easy to carry in the back. This other lock I was going to show you is kind of cool. This is, we've got a couple of these we run on our bikes. So this is a cable lock that you can spool this. It looks like a bottle, and you can just leave it in there. And you've got a key to lock this back to itself and then lock it. So the key is hidden on the bottom. Why would take that with you? So I had this on my son's bike. So he runs around the neighborhood and he takes a key with him, and he just has this with him on his bike all the time. So that's simple locks. So there's a lot of different options for locks out there.
CO2 pipe?
Yep, a spare one, and this one's threaded. So there's difference, so make sure you know what you need to get.
Self-adhesive patch.
Yes. So I showed you I run with the tube, so it's good to have a tube with you. But sometimes if you get more than 1 flat, if you have just a little patch kit, and there's like 5 or 6 of those in there, so you could have a lot of flats and still make it home safely. So keep that in mind. Thank you. So I was going to show you one other thing before we talk about the wheels. Is the fender's nice, and sometimes these fenders are so easy to take off. It's dirty probably, but these fenders are not real expensive. So again, if you're commuting and you need to stay dry or just don't want to get dirty, I have 2 of these. I have one that's set up that's always set to fit this bike or my road bike, which is this one. That one's got a bigger, fatter seat post, you can see. So you can adjust this, but it's just quicker. I just like to have one for that bike. So once this is set, you just flip this on here and you're set. So kind of a nice thing to have in case you need to have a fender and stay dry. And it's nice to keep your rear end dry, trust me. So, all right. Anybody want to try fixing a flat? Any volunteers? We want to try. Anybody know how to fix the flat? Want to try it?
Yeah.
All right. I don't have the table. You can, if you can do it here, I'll let you try one of these sets of tire levers. Now, I'll give you a tip.
Okay.
When you have a flat, all you have to do is get half the tire off. You're not taking the whole tire off the rim. So we're just trying to get half of it off. And you notice these have hooks on the end of them. That's to help you get your hook in that. You can hook them into the spokes. That's what those are for. I think to show you different styles, you can keep going there, Larry. This style this is my favorite pair. This one has a little different kind of a hook, just to kind of show you there's a lot of different styles. This has a different kind of hook where it hooks onto the spoke than that style. Either one's fine, just whatever you like. So yeah, what's going to happen is you're going to have to try to hook one, get it set, and then try to move off just a little bit further and try to hook and get the rest of the tire started off.
I better not have a flat tire.
You might want to start closer. On some of the tires.
Otherwise I'll be walking a lot, won't I?
Yep.
Don't get too far from home.
There he goes. Okay, now, depending on the tire, here's another, I'll give you another one. You can use 3, that's why three come in the set. Some tires are real easy, you can get it started and get it off with just 2, sometimes it takes 3. He'll have it here in a second.
Maybe grab another sandwich.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you can start now. You're loosening. I would just take that and start.
This one here?
Either one. Maybe this. You can leave that one. Try this one. Just spin it around. Piece of cake.
Piece of cake. I didn't find cake on the table back there.
Okay. So now, all right. Thank you, Larry.
Yep.
So that's all. That's as far as you have to take it. Okay. So the next step is you say you've got it flat. So you want to pull that tube out. Okay. So this one's flat. Pull that tube out. You're going to have to, when you get to the stem, fold it back like that so you can just pull that tube out. Now, you may have to patch this or you may just grab a new tube and throw it in. But either way, before you do that, the most important thing now, and please do not cut yourself, is to carefully run your hand inside this tire, looking for what punctured it, if it's still in there. Actually, you know, it feels a little bit of something there, but I don't know what that is. There's a little bit of a wire in there.
That patch kit because
You might need to pull something out. Let's see what I got. I don't know what that is. There actually is a little piece of wire. I'll have to try to get that out later. And that's the #1 culprit for us out on the roads typically is steel belted semi-truck tires that come shredded on the sides of the road. I know you've all seen them. That's fine steel belts. That small wire is what ends up in a lot of our tires. I'd rather run over glass or whatever before I run over that stuff because it gets in there. So when you're running through here, you're looking for anything that's punctured. Now, it could have been a thorn that went in and out and it's gone. It's not in here. But if it's a piece of wire or a piece of flint, small rock that will sometimes get jabbed through there, or that wire, you may find it in here, so be careful not to cut your hand open, okay? I didn't find anything. I'm good. I'm going to either patch this or put a new one on. So again, you're just taking half of that off. Find where your stem goes back in. And you may have Schrader valves. This is a Schrader valve, like what's on your car tires. These 2 bikes are set up with Presta valves, so there's a difference. So you make sure you know what you need. So just put that back in there like that. Push that through there. And you're going to kind of just reverse the process. And just tuck that in there. Again, I think this is just an important step. I've taught my wife this because if she goes out on a ride by herself, I mean, she doesn't want to have to call me to come get her. It's nice being self-sufficient. So just tuck that back in there. Now, the next critical step, and the other way you don't want to get it flat, is this next piece. Is when you're putting this back on, what I like to do is I like to push the stem up a little bit and then make sure it gets seated good right there. You're going to wrap that all back on there. And depending on the tire, you can just do this by hand most often. Road bike tires, or the small tires, even these, are a little tougher to do that with. But I'll be able to roll this one right back on. Okay? Should be able to. Okay, so it's all back on there. Now, the rim has what they call a rim strip around the outside to keep that tube protected, so there's a piece of rubber all the way around the rim. I like it when it's colored. This one's not colored. This one's black. all of these have colored rim strips, yellow or red. So what happens is I'm going to look and do this all the way around. I want to make sure that the tire, the tube doesn't get pinched between the rim and the tire when it airs up, so it doesn't pinch flat it, okay? So I'm gonna go around, walk around like that, and I'm looking, and what happens is you're also pulling that tube up into the tire, so it fits up there good. So you kind of check it to make sure I don't see any tube sticking out underneath. You do that both ways, just again, pretty quick. I'm just doing it quick to check, so I know what's back up inside there. I'm not gonna get a pinch flat. And a pinch flat is something you could have gotten as well, where you hit a big rock and literally just think of like a wet piece of pasta, and if you squeeze it, pinch it, it's gonna get two cuts on the end. That's a pinch flat. Sometimes I call it a snake bite. But, so again, one of those that you hit a big rock, and that's why you get flat. But put that in there right, and you're ready to go. You can air that back up and you're good to go. So practice that if you haven't. Practice that a little bit at home so you know how to do it, so you feel confident. You don't need all that kind of gear. You do need, it'd be nice to have the spare tube, the tire levers, and a pump. So if you have a patch kit with you, great, but that's the main thing you need to have with you to fix that. So, questions on Fix the Flat?
When you use the cartridge, are you able to control how much goes into the tube itself?
Yeah, good question. So on this one, I'll show you. This one has the threaded, and so if I thread this down tight enough, there's like a needle in there and it punctures that, and then you really, it's how much you put this onto the tire, because it's ran there. So if I punctured this, I'd leave it tight, and whenever I put this onto the stem is when the air goes into it. So I may leave this like this for a while. If there's a little bit of air left in there, I'll save it, just put it back. So this one's how that works. But this other one, once you unlock this, this has a little trigger lock on the back, you've got this control. So it's as much as you want to spray it. And you got to be careful on some of these that there is enough in here that you could blow the tire. So for example, like this guy, probably not that one,